Hi guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to go ahead and review some books that I felt like kind of give you those wintry vibes since we still are in the dead of winter. And I didn't realize like when I was picking these books for my shelves that they all were like adult mystery thriller horror books, except for like one of them that kind of like stands out as that odd book that I threw in there, but that's fine. So we will go ahead and get started with the book that I started with first. And these books I actually read towards the end of December and finished up like the first week or so in January. So we'll go ahead and get started. So the first book that I started with is Devolution, a first-hand account of the Rainier Sasquatch Massacre by Max Brooks. And this is the author that also wrote World War Z, that is also really popular. And so this tells the story of a group of people that are at this community called the Green Loop community that is out in like the woods in Mount Rainier. And this particular community that they're at is like this eco-friendly, energy-saving community. And while they are there, a volcano erupts and it actually traps them on this mountain and they have no way of going down. And so they decide that they are going to try and wait for someone to come and rescue them. And while they are waiting, they realize that they are not the only ones that are on this mountain. And they come to find out that they are actually up there with Sasquatch, aka Bigfoot, and they realize that Bigfoot is not a myth, he is real. And so this story is actually told in like a mixed media format, and it is primarily told from our main character by the name of Kate, and we are reading her journal entries. And it is also told from other like interviews and different articles from the people who actually invented like this Green Loop community, and it also is providing us with different like facts and other like information about like the backstory on Sasquatch, and just giving us other like random facts and things about Mount Rainier in general and all the different theories about Sasquatch and all the other different sightings people have had over the years. So I actually listened to this one on audiobook. And normally I would say that if you have a book that has like the mixed media format, that it's better to listen to them on audiobook, because I feel like audio really brings these type of stories to life. But I feel like with this one, the person that narrates our main character, Kate, I found her to be a little annoying. I think how this person narrated Kate made her sound a lot more like cheery and peppy than she needed to be for this type of story, because it's supposed to be like a horror story. You're trapped on a mountain with Bigfoot, and she sounded like she was a little happy about it. But I also think that that was just how this person talks, and maybe they probably just needed a different voice actor for it, but that's just my personal opinion. But it just kept bringing me out of the story. And I also just felt like the pacing of the story was a little off for me. I felt like when we got the action scenes with Bigfoot, I really enjoyed them. I thought the action scenes were great. But I felt like when we didn't have them and we were just getting just the journal entries and her just explaining what was happening from day to day and how they were going to survive, I kind of felt like those scenes were just slow and a tad bit boring at times, and it was a little hard for me to pay attention. I did also think that there were a lot of characters for this. So when they were at this community, it was a group of people, and it was 4 couples and 2 other people. So that's like 10 people total. And so that's 10 characters that we have to keep track of. And then when we get introduced to Bigfoot in the story, they're also trying to give names to them. And so it was just like at times just a lot going on and a lot to keep track of. And so it was just hard. So, and it just kind of made the story a little confusing. So maybe this is just something that would have benefited me reading physically instead of trying to listen to it, and I would have had just maybe a better experience. But I ended up rating this story a 3 stars overall. I did really enjoy like the facts that we got about Bigfoot, and I really liked listening to other people's experiences or sightings that they had of Bigfoot. I enjoyed the action scenes when we got to see Bigfoot. So overall, I thought this was fine. The next story that I read is The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon, and this is another adult horror novel, and this is actually told in 2 different timelines. So we have the past, which is, I believe, 1908, and then it's also told in the present. So in the past, we are following our main character, Sarah, and she has recently tragically lost her daughter, and in the present, we are following our main character, Ruthie, and her younger sister, Fawn, who are dealing with the recent disappearance of their mother, Alice. And we also find out that they are actually living in the house where Sarah from the past has actually died. And we find out that in this town that they are living in, that a lot of people have been disappearing over the years and no one really knows why. And there have been a lot of theories of why people have been disappearing. Theories that range from people have just been walking away from their lives, from aliens have been beaming people away, to ghosts have even been taking people away. And so in this story, we are trying to figure out how Ruthie and Fawn's mother, Alice, disappearing ties back to the death of Sarah and her daughter in 1908. So I really enjoyed this story. I ended up rating this a 4 out of 5 stars. I did listen to this on audiobook. It was really creepy. This did give me all of the horror feels that I was looking for. It also gave me the winter vibes that I was looking for. I am somebody that likes horror stories that has like the creepy kid vibe, and this delivers on like the creepy kid vibe. This deals with grief and how mothers are dealing with like the death of a child, and it also deals with how people will do anything they can to try to bring back their children. So you take that however you want to. And this book also will never have me looking at closets in the same way. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. So I really enjoyed this. I've heard nothing but good things about this author's other books. So I actually plan on reading her other books. And I actually would recommend listening to this on audiobook, because I did listen to this, and I, at times when I was at home and I was listening to this, I found myself peeking over my shoulder because I didn't know if something was going to be behind me. And I actually have a closet right in front of my bed, and I didn't know if something was going to pop out of there. So I really enjoyed this, and I would highly, highly recommend this. This was creepy. So then the next book that I read was A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And this was that random book that I said that I read that didn't match the genres of the other ones that I read. And so this one, I feel like everyone knows what this is about, but I've actually never read this book before. I've watched so many different adaptations of this book, but I've just never actually read it. I actually listened to this one on audiobook again. So if you are somebody that actually doesn't know anything about this, so this follows our main character by the name of Ebenezer Scrooge, and he is this man that is terrible. He's a terrible person. He is mean to everybody. He is mean to his own family, and he just has no love in his heart for anybody. And so he actually ends up getting visited by 3 ghosts, I believe on like Christmas Eve, and he gets visited by the ghosts of Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future, and they end up showing him what his life will be like if he doesn't change his ways. And then he ends up seeing how if he doesn't change his ways, how terrible his life will turn out. And so I ended up rating this a 3 stars. I actually struggled getting through the audiobook for this. This is barely 100 pages, and I think what my struggle was for this one was just the writing style. And I'm not gonna lie, this was my first quote-unquote classic that I've ever read, and the writing style for this really threw me. I had to keep rewinding it because I just wasn't grasping what was going on. I really would have benefited from just picking this up and just reading it physically. I don't know why I just didn't do it, but the writing style got me on this one. But I mean, I enjoyed the story. I already knew what the story was. I liked all the adaptations that I've seen about this, but I'm happy that I read it. And I actually heard that people like a lot of Charles Dickens' other works, which I'm interested to read his other works. I would just actually have to read them and not listen to them because that's not working for me. But if you haven't read A Christmas Carol, I would actually go ahead and pick it up because I did enjoy this. Just the writing didn't work for me in audio form. So I enjoyed it. So then the next book that I actually read it, did not listen to this one on audio, is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. And this is another adult, I'm gonna say mystery thriller novel. And so this follows a couple who have been married for about 10 years. And so we have Amelia, who works at this like dog shelter, and then we have her husband Adam, who is this famous or somewhat famous screenwriter, and he actually has this condition where he is unable to like recognize faces. I can't recall what the exact name of it is, but it's like a face blindness. And so they, like I said, they've been having some marital issues, and she actually ends up winning like a weekend getaway at a raffle at her job. So she decides that for their anniversary that they're going to go away on this weekend getaway to try and help salvage their marriage. So they ended up taking this trip. And while they're away for the weekend at this secluded place, they encounter all kinds of crazy things while they're at this like secluded chapel turned house type of place. And so all kinds of crazy things happen while they are there. And so this story is actually told from each of their perspectives, and is also being told through letters that the wife has written to her husband every year on their anniversary. So when I first started this book, it took me a little while to get into it because we are just watching them as they arrive at their destination. Not much was really going on. And then we were getting these letters, and it's just kind of like recapping what's going on in their marriage. And then all of a sudden, I think I hit right just before the halfway point, and things took a turn, and then the reveals start happening in this book, and then they just don't stop happening. And I just could not put this book down. There was like plot twist after plot twist. There was even like horror elements that started happening at a certain point in here. So I'm gonna say this book even has horror in it as well. And this book took me for a loop. Like, I didn't even expect some of the things that was revealed to have happened. I just couldn't guess some of the things that happened in this book. And there were even some times where my mouth was left hanging open because I just could not believe some of the stuff that was happening in here. And I would highly recommend this. I believe I ended up just giving this a 4 stars just because in the beginning of it, I do feel like it is kind of slow. But I would say if you just stick with it, you will be really surprised by the end of it. And just stick with it because this was great. The reveals in this had my mouth on the floor. So I really, really like this. And I believe this author has other books that I've never read. And I want to say that people who I've read from this author say this is one of her best. So take that for what that's worth, but this was good. And then the last one that I have is Near the Bone by Christina Henry. And this is a adult horror. And so this actually follows a married couple by the names of Maddie and William, who live up on this mountain, and they are the only ones to live up on this mountain. And one day while Maddie is out checking the traps for food, she notices that she sees like these strange bear traps that don't necessarily look like bear traps, but she thinks that that's the only thing that they could be, and she ends up telling her husband William. And then from there we also learn that William is very, very, very controlling and abusive mentally and physically to Maddie. And we learn that their relationship is not all what it seems. And we also learn that this is not a bear, that these prints that Maddie has found, that this is some other kind of creature. And so we are following Maddie and William as they are trying to figure out what it is that has all of a sudden appeared out of nowhere up on this mountain with them and has been slowly killing things and basically taking away their food that is left for them to survive. And so now up on the mountain, they have also encountered strangers that are also trying to track this creature. And this also frightens William because he doesn't want anyone to know that he and Maddie live up on the mountain, because he wants to keep Maddie all to himself. And so we have different stories that are going on. We have them trying to not get attacked by this quote unquote creature. And then we also are trying to figure out what exactly is going on with Maddie and William's relationship, and why is it that William doesn't want anyone to know about Maddie, and why is it that these strangers already know who Maddie is. And so this book, I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book, and not even so much for the horror part of the book. I like this for everything else about this book. I really liked, not so much that I just liked learning about Maddie and William's relationship, because he was horrible to her and you actually got to see how horrible he was to her. But I just liked seeing Maddie evolve as a character, because she started off as this really weak person, and then you really got to see her grow as the story evolved. But you got to really learn her backstory and what was really going on between her and William. And then you got to really learn about these characters and what they were actually doing in the woods and how it is that they know about her. And so you get to learn all about that storyline. Now, as far as the creature goes, to some people that might be scary enough for others. I didn't really too much care about like the creature plot. I wish we could have learned more about the creature and what exactly that was. I just don't feel like we got enough. There were some like gruesome scenes in here. It was fine. But like I said, I just liked everything else that was going on in this. I really enjoyed this way more than I thought I was going to. I have actually seen this going around quite a bit here on BookTube, and believe the hype on this one. I really enjoyed this one. So that is actually all that I have for you guys today. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.